have a problem in business and you're wondering what you can do to solve that problem, solving that problem will be dependent on how you actually look at it. Today's entire episode will be geared entirely towards getting towards the root cause of an issue. Inverted thinking is very valuable in this case. And a lot of people don't like inverted thinking because you're having to think about failing on purpose, but without the fear of it. That's where it gets interesting. That's where it becomes unique. So inverted thinking is we start at the problem and go backwards. A good example is you're going to go on a 7-hour road trip and you have to look at what could go wrong. We could look at gas. We could look at maintenance of the vehicle. And we solve those problems before the trip. So you have to be able to look at what causes all the major issues, what shows you the small mistakes that can go down on your trip, when you're traveling. So going to the root is a beautiful thing. A lot of times I help people go to that root in very interesting ways. But you have to look at what's causing the chaos, what's causing the problem, what's causing the issues. Looking at the root cause. It's just like a cavity. You got to go right to where the cavity is and go from there. It's not just about pulling it out either, although some people like to do that. So when you check on the root cause of certain things, you look forward from the problem, you go from the problem, and with inversion thinking, you move all the way to the worst possible scenario. You go all the way to the worst scenario. So it's about asking a better quality question, which brings you a better quality answer. So instead of asking why something is all screwed up, what can we do to make sure that we don't break down while we're on the road? What can we do? So fixing those very problems, it means that we have to be able to look at those bad habits that are causing damage instead of adding more rules. See, a lot of people want to add more rules and more ideas and more things. And if you have a habit, you might need a system and not a set of rules, although rules can be helpful to a degree. When we look at, let's say, customers, if something is going to ruin your customer trust, then that will show where the business has an issue and being able to go backwards. A lot of people, when they're dealing with problems and the root cause in business, they want a Band-Aid, And what I've seen is these little Band-Aids that they put on situations. I've noticed them to be what we call penny wise, dollar foolish. Let me explain penny wise, dollar foolish for those of you that don't know. If you own a laundromat and you only have 5 laundry machines, maybe it's just a small place, you only got 5, and you're using washing machines that are not built for a commercial load. They're just household. And they were inexpensive. They didn't cost you a lot. They don't have a whole lot of features. And maybe their capacity to do certain things is not up to snuff. So to be penny wise and dollar foolish would be to have a repair person come in and fix that machine 80 times over. And if you look at the cost of all those repairs, it's 5 washing machines. But because you tried to save money and cut costs by getting something that can't handle the load, you're wasting money. You're penny wise and dollar foolish. When we actually look at the root cause is that we are dealing with a load and amount of laundry that deserves a commercial machine. And if you look at all the repair money that you've spent to rescue that breaking washing machine, it keeps breaking over and over again, you can put it towards a commercial machine, or maybe even 5 of them. So that one that's breaking down could literally, the repair over the year could give you 5 commercial washing machines, which would allow you less repair to save money in the long run, not just in the short run, but in the long run, and be able to have an operation that's working. And that everything, and that's penny wise, dollar foolish. And I've seen it in business more than I'd like to. Okay. And there are, leaders that are hard-headed. And when those leaders are hard-headed, they won't hear you. So, because the arrogant close their ears but open their mouth is what tends to happen. And in situations like that, you have to have that hard conversation with that person and be like, stubbornness has a cost. It's going to cost you. Whether you buy the washing machine now or go through 5 repairs later, either way, what's the big picture here, right? So the Japanese have a term, muda. So when we start looking into muda is waste. And we're asking how much time gets wasted through all of those repairs and the person coming in and repairing them over and over again. And when you yourself waste a lot of time on a situation, you can look at a source of the problem. So in other words, inverted thinking is like, okay, where is time being wasted? You could also work backwards from that. You don't always have to work backwards from the problem itself. You can work backwards from muda in Japanese, working backwards. And the temporary band-aids that people put on these things, it's just a bandage that they put over it to fix the short term, but they didn't really do their research for the long term. I've seen this time and time again. So if you're making a product, if you're building a product, for example, what can make the product launch fail? Or what can cause problems in that product launch? So you can actually build some safety nets in that. Well, if it's an 8-hour product launch, maybe it's live and in person, does the staff have water? Can we give bottles of water to our customers? Because they're going to be waiting. Right? Can we look at schedule? How can we configure everybody's lunch schedule to where it's balanced, that every customer gets taken care of? How do we do a warm transfer when one employee transfers a customer to another before their lunch, before their break? That if they are going on lunch, they could actually explain to that fellow employee everything to expect and what they're going into. So there are a lot of ways to start at that problem. Start at the problem or start at the waste and go backwards. You could start in other areas as well. But the deep issues happen in a company when the company rewards how people hide the mistakes. That's an issue. I've seen that. You got to remember in business, what gets rewarded gets redone in terms of behavior and in business. What gets rewarded gets redone. And if there's bad behavior, it'll be, if it's rewarded, it'll get redone. The person will do it again. So if we are rewarding people who hide mistakes or act poorly, we're actually doing damage to our business. So the past failures that you have, both personally and professionally, it teaches us a whole lot about who we are, more than just trying to copy what successful people do or successful businesses do, because you have to be able to learn from it. You have to put those pains under a microscope and realize what the root cause was and get granular about it. And thinking backward keeps you honest, so you don't have to just see only what you want to see. Okay, when you list every plan that can go wrong and you get a clear list of the things that you could try to prevent, you'd be amazed at what kind of solutions come up. So when you list every single plan, you get that nice list. Now, what tends to happen is the overthinkers. The people that overthink struggle hard with inversion thinking, or inverted. They struggle really hard because they try to play the mental chess game. Well, what if this happens? Well, what if they look at these scenarios like, well, is that likely? Is that likely? Or is that just fear? And when you're dealing with competitive business analysis, competitive intelligence, you have to look at the facts. You have to be objective. You can't just, say, all right, let's go on a hunch. Intuition's great. I won't devalue it ever. Instinct is great. I won't devalue it. It is huge. Very powerful. When we look at the mistakes that are the trivial, tiny ones, the dumb mistakes that we make, and again, dumb mistakes doesn't necessarily mean that, we have to self-judge, but it's like, okay, it's just an error. When we learn what those mistakes are and we avoid the behaviors that cause them, we do that to work backwards instead of trying to be a genius. That's the thing, everybody. For some people, it comes down to how they look rather than to what they do. A lot of people are overly concerned with that. Oh, my reputation's on the line, but the overthinking can play the chess game 40 steps forward, 40 steps back. But we have to look at, okay, we're going on a road trip, 7 days. What can go wrong? When you start coming up with least likely scenarios, the least likely, you could look at scenarios in terms of percentage. You start to see a bigger picture, a bigger story. So I've done a lot of combat scenarios, and combat scenarios that I've been put in were likely situations, like being surrounded by 3 people, right? Who had weapons. Okay. Much higher, right? But one person is more likely than 3, right? So you start to look at the probabilities of things. See, possibility becomes probability when information is introduced. So when we're doing competitive intelligence, we have the possibility of the business maybe going in a direction. But as you start to collect all your info and analyze it, you start to realize, okay, all right, they are probably going in this way. And let's look at 10 other pieces of data to solidify that and maybe make a percent, like a determination of 90%, 100% even, getting as high as we possibly can. So when you're dealing with a team and you're training a team, asking your team, like, okay, some of you might have misunderstood the goal. And the beauty of that is that when they misunderstand the goal, we can work backwards and say, where did the communication go wrong? where did we go wrong in this communication? Like understanding it, or the way it was explained, or the time, the objective. What was it? So that helps you, because maybe it was the communication. Maybe it was leadership's fault that it wasn't communicated properly. It happens, right? So you're going to have steps that work better and faster. And they're going to be a system that's better than pushing people to work harder. And that's the difference. Like, we could devise a better system in a way that it makes it smooth for people. And we can work through it together. So when we look at the root cause of things, and then we go backward, inverted in our thinking, we could start to spot a weak spot here and there and there, and then we could create a strong plan. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you for watching the Voices of Victory Sunday live stream, Strategies Lab. I'll be running more of these. I'll be doing them every day. So have a good one. Take care.